Hi guys, welcome back to week 9. Okay, and we are on this new topic, rhetoric and persuasion, but we are swiftly moving from learning to application this week. So make sure if you have your notes and things in it, and your record of work in a book, that might be really good for us today, because we are going to be referring back. And as you know, we are actually going to be writing a speech. Okay, I'm going to remind you of that later, but we do have a bigger outcome, a bigger plan that we're working to, and that is to contribute towards your GCSE. Yeah, guys, to contribute towards your GCSE by planning and researching a speech which comes under your GCSE language remit. Okay, so there is a bigger goal in mind here. So it's really important that we use that to kind of set our standards and measure our success, okay? I would just like to say thank you so much for the brilliant work I'm being emailed and that you're keeping me up to date with. It's so good to see what wonderful standards of work. So thank you so much. It's really appreciated. So we are on week 9, session 1, and our aim is to begin the process of planning and researching a speech. Okay, but we are going to be needing information from prior lessons. So 7 little starter questions today. So it says here, write the answers in your book. Number 1, what do the words ethos, logos, and pathos mean? What is antithesis? What is meant by the illusion, Sisyphean task? What is meant by the illusion, Herculean effort? Why is the term Herculean effort more positive than Sisyphean task? What does the word specious mean? And what is a counter argument? So guys, press pause, work through those questions in your own time. I would definitely say, guys, I know sometimes with timing, people get a little bit anxious. Definitely do 5. If you can make it to number 7, brilliant. Okay, and we'll go through the answers together in a minute. Okay, guys, so ethos. Ethos is about your credibility and trust, the persona, the face that you present. Logos is how you appeal to somebody's reason, their sense of logic. And pathos means making an emotional appeal, an appeal to the emotions, to somebody's beliefs, values, and feelings. Okay, so just check your answers there. And number 2, what is antithesis? Okay, it's the use of brilliant opposites. And number 3, what is meant by the illusion? Sisyphean task. It means a task that is impossible to complete, that seems almost futile and so too difficult to complete. Okay, what is meant by the illusion? A Herculean effort. Okay, that you make a strong, heroic effort to achieve a difficult or seemingly impossible task. So that's why the term Herculean effort is more positive than Sisyphean task, because Herculean effort means despite a seemingly impossible situation or incredible difficult circumstances, you still make a heroic effort, you win. In the Sisyphean task, you try your best, you keep going at impossible tasks, but you never seem to get anywhere. You always seem to have to start again. What does the word specious mean? Yes, it means plausible but wrong. So something that sounds convincing but is actually wrong. And what is a counter argument? Okay, that's where you are ready to anticipate what the other side might say, that you're ready to have a but moment or a counter argument, an answer back, so to speak, to what somebody says or thinks. Okay, brilliant. Now, again, if you got those right, give yourself a tick. If there were any wrong, just make a note of the right answers. And if you made it all to all 7, that's wonderful, guys. Really encouraging. Okay, so we're going to be looking then, just as a little warm-up as well, to link back to area of prior learning. We're linking back to logos, okay, that appeal to reason. So it says here, guys, remember logos, okay? Do you remember logic and reason? It is your argument, your logical set of reasons. It's the way you get your audience to believe that your aims, arguments, the conclusions to which you're headed are the right ones. Logos is logical appeal, and the term logic is derived from it. It is used to describe facts and figures that support the speaker's claims or ideas. So those were all ideas that we covered last week, but now we're going to add to this. So how else can we appeal to logos? How else can we build a logical argument? How else can we convince people? How else can we support our own claims and ideas? And the answer here is by using quotation. So in a minute, I'm just going to say you can either write as I'm talking, or you can pause and just get this little bit down, this new information down. So we can appeal to people's logos by using quotation. Now, by quoting credible, influential individuals in a field is an effective way to build a credible argument. For example, if I was trying to persuade people to believe in my leadership at a time of crisis, I might quote Winston Churchill. Right-wing politicians often quote Margaret Thatcher. We might see within arguments and speeches references to experts, medical experts. We might see references to professors, experts in their field. So a really good way to build up a logical argument is to back up your opinion with the opinions of other trusted professionals. Okay, so when we use that word credible, it means the opinion of people that you might trust. Now, I always think a really nice quick illustration of this, if you're a fan of Simpsons. Hello, everybody. You've got Dr. Nick and you've got Dr. Herbert. Dr. Herbert is always the credible professional or medical opinion in The Simpsons. And Dr. Nick, he's the guy that you wouldn't really trust. Okay, so there is a choice that speech writers get to make. Who am I going to draw upon? Which credible, influential individuals am I going to use to back up my case? So, for example, you might be really familiar to seeing at the moment, we usually have a member of the Conservative Party. So we might have Matt Hancock, Boris Johnson, but on either side of them, on that podium, on that layout, they will have credible experts, scientific experts in their field. So using quotation can be a really good way to build logos. So we're just going to think about it. Okay, then, who might you quote for each of the following topics? So if you were going to write an anti-racism speech, who might you go to be your credible opinion? If you were going to write a human rights speech, who would you go to be your credible opinion? If you were going to write a speech persuading people to do more to protect the environment, who would your person be? Now, there are some potentials here, so it could just be that you try and match one of these individuals to number 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to give you time in a minute to do this task. So we've got Nelson Mandela, Emily Pankhurst, MLK, could you think who that stands for? Martin Luther King, Amal Clooney, David Attenborough, and Angelina Jolie. So who would you match to an anti-racism speech? Okay, now it says here, if you don't know who they are, you can quickly Google them. But if you're going to do an anti-racism speech, who would you quote out of our potentials here, or your own choice? If you were doing a human rights speech, who would you quote? Now, again, you can choose one of our potentials, or you could go and find your own. You might already have somebody else that you would go to. Now, if you were doing a speech persuading people to do more to protect the environment, again, which choice would you make? Who would you choose out of these speakers? So, guys, I just want you to pause and I want you just to quickly write down in your books, number 1, anti-racism speech, and the name of somebody you would quote from. Number 2, a human rights speech, somebody you would quote from. Number 3, a speech persuading people to do more to protect the environment, somebody you would quote from. And we'll just discuss some of your answers in a minute, okay? Okay, guys, so I know there's going to be great variety out there that you might have got your own knowledge to draw upon, which is brilliant. But if not, let's just look at each of these names. So Nelson Mandela. Right, did anybody of you have to Google him or did you know? Nelson Mandela would be a brilliant person to quote in an anti-racism speech. He could overlap to human rights, but he is definitely a representative, a credible opinion on the issue of racism. Okay, now Emily Pankhurst. Emily Pankhurst was a suffragette. She did amazing work getting women the vote. She suffered for her beliefs. So she might be really good for a human rights speech. Brilliant. MLK, Martin Luther King. Brilliant. He would be another advocate, another amazing source of information on an anti-racism speech. Now, Amal Clooney, you might know her as Mrs. Clooney. She married George Clooney, but she was actually a human rights lawyer. So she's a lawyer with an amazing kind of catalogue of working in human rights areas. So she would be a really good example of a human rights speech. Now, it's not on this list, but actually Emma Watson has become an advocate for human rights. So she could have been somebody you chose for number 2. Okay, human rights speech. There's lots of people out there. Where would you have put David Attenborough though, guys? Yeah, he's definitely an advocate for the environment, isn't it? He definitely could be somebody that probably has got a quote about the importance of the environment. Also, maybe Greta Thunberg at this time would be somebody you might have chosen. Now, guys, what about Angelina Jolie? Now, you might again know her as an actress, married to Brad Pitt, that kind of profile, but she does work within human rights. Okay, so you could have put her for number two, and you might have found your own people. But what this illustrates is, as we start to think and plan, there might be times when I direct you to look for a quote from an opinion from a source to back up your opinion. And this is the sort of thing we might do. Okay, so we can use logos, that appeal to reason, by getting quotes from people to back up what we're saying. Brilliant. Okay, but now we're going to think about linking to the future. And I'm just going to make it really clear to us this link between what we're doing and our future outcomes, okay? Because there is a clear link, guys. So you just need to listen to this. The big picture is you will have to deliver a persuasive speech as part of your GCSE course. So our intention is when you're back in the classroom in September, you will be recorded delivering a persuasive speech. Now, this is compulsory. Can you see that? It does not count towards your final grade, but it is compulsory. Every single one of you has to be recorded delivering a persuasive speech. So what we're going to do this side of the summer is plan, write, and practice delivering your speech so that by the end of this school year, mid-July, you will have a complete speech written, practiced, and planned so that when we come back in September, we can make up for that lost time, get those recorded and say we've done that section of our GCSE. So this week, we're going to be thinking about coming up with a topic, planning and creating time for you to research. Okay, then we're going to start writing the speech because it will have to be drafted before you can practice your delivery. Okay. Also, a double value of this is we've seen in the language paper candidates being asked to write persuasive speeches. Okay, so it has value both for the real long-term future outcomes, your final GCSEs in year 11, but it also has an immediate or a more immediate outcome because in September you will be expected to be recorded delivering these speeches. So it's really important, guys, that we see that measure of success, and we want you to be successful. Okay, so we're really going to invest in this process. So how are we going to link to future outcomes today? Well, we've already learned about the three appeals of rhetoric: ethos, logos, and pathos. Now we need to create a bridge as we move forward into starting to plan and write our own speeches. So we're going to cover the 5 parts of rhetoric. Now, the initial 3 we're going to focus on are invention, arrangement, and style. Now, 4 and 5, we can't even think about those till we've got a speech written, because then that's all about memory and delivery. Okay, how do I remember this speech and how do I deliver it? So our initial focus is on invention, arrangement, and style. And the first part of rhetoric is invention. Okay, guys, now it's not invention as in making things up, but it is invention in terms of thinking about your ideas in advance. We could also call this planning. Now, the majority of powerful persuasive speeches are planned. There are very few that are delivered spontaneously and within the moment. I did see one recently, a really powerful speech in the wake of the recent events made by a Black activist who was invited into a press conference, and on the spot, without notes, without prep, he did deliver a very powerful speech. But the majority of these speeches are pre-planned. So thinking in advance about what arguments could be made both for and against an idea or proposition is key. There will always be more arguments than possible to use. So you'll not only have to think of arguments, but also then select the best ideas to run with and the weaker ones to leave out. And then we take those ideas and we grow them, okay, from ideas into paragraphs, into extended ideas that we then write and then reduce to notes and deliver. So this does involve thinking carefully about your audience and what will impress them. It does involve making choices, and it does involve valuing and recognizing the importance of planning.